We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday when you hear this. Now, I will say this: Ed was supposed to be on today, but he had problems with his internet, and we were trying to get it figured out, and he couldn't get it figured out. And he said to me, "I just can't figure it out. I can't get on AOL." And I'm thinking, maybe AOL is your problem because that's from the fucking 90s. And the reason I bring that up is because we have a young Gen Z guy here who we've had on before and been on the lives and such. Um, we have Jay from California who's moving to Canada eventually. Jay, do you even know what AOL is at this point?
Um, a- no, but I have heard of AIM, which I was wondering, did he message you on AIM, on AIM?
Well, that may be part of AOL, but AOL was one of the first server, not, I don't know if it's a server, but the first
Just dial-in
services
internet,
for
right?
internet. It was dial-in internet, and they constantly sent DVDs out to you or CDs out so you could set up, and they would have little chat rooms, and they would have. I mean, it's fucking old school, archaic
Oh,
stuff.
like floppy disks.
Floppy, well, not floppy disks. They were CDs. It's after floppy disks. But
And
anyway, so Ed was supposed to be on, but we've got Jay, so that's good.
yeah, and before anything else, those of you in the audience who are giggling at that, that's a computer thing. Look it up.
Well, if anybody's laughing at a floppy disk, they've got to be under 30. They've got to be under 30. We don't have that many under 30 people other than yourself and maybe JD Farmer and some other folks. We've got a few Gen Zs out there, so that's good. It's been a while since we talked. What's been going on? Where the hell you been? You been hiding? What?
No, I've been getting my ass kicked by biology and chemistry homework mostly, because I am back in classes now.
Oh, okay. Well, I can understand that. That's a lot of shit to have on your plate. Have you been able to? I mean, while you're going to school and you're focusing on some pretty serious classes, have you been able to take in some of the bullshit that's going on in this country?
Oh boy, do I ever. I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore. I mean, just every every day it's like Will says all the time, it's a bad reality show. Every fucking day with this shit. Right?
Yeah.
We got I mean, guys going into Chicago, all I can say to them is good luck cuz people aren't going to put up with that.
I saw a video supposedly in Chicago of people getting ready for them to come in. And I saw this street full of nothing but motorcycles and bikers. That seemed pretty ominous. I don't know if that's truly what's happening there, but when you're going into Chicago, it's a much different thing than going into DC. You're going in where there's a lot of white people, people that you supposedly think support you, and Chicagoans aren't very friendly if you try to step on their fucking toes.
No, no they're not. I mean, it's not called the Windy City for nothing.
Yeah, yeah. It's
That
going to be
and that's actually
interesting to see
not
if he does it.
the term Windy City actually comes from the place that it was where most of the organized crime went on. So that is where that term actually comes from. Talking to, my former counselor who was originally from Chicago was talking about how Chicago was called the Windy City because it was where most of the crimes went on. I don't know where exactly they get that term from, but that's where it originated. And the point is, you're not just dealing with regular everyday Chicagoans. You're dealing with the mob out there.
You're dealing with a mob, you're dealing with gangs, you're dealing with bikers. I mean, Chicago, I live in outside Minneapolis, and Minneapolis is a bigger town, but it's a small town by comparison to what you see on the East Coast, New York and Boston and such. And Chicago is more akin to New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, and you're dealing with an entirely different climate there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And by the way, I did actually stop briefly in New York, both ways for a layover on a brief trip to Switzerland. Both
Wow,
both
wow.
ways. My layover was in New York in JFK, and just so you know, now that now that the we got a communist running there, the city's already a crater. Everything's gone. It's all destroyed. No, I'm just kidding. It it looked perfectly fine. The people were nice. on the way back, the pre-flight lounge was probably one of the best I've ever had. They had an actual hot dog stand in the airport. It was nuts. But
Wow.
yeah, but point being, I did go there, and yeah, I didn't see very much of it, but nice place from what I saw. To the Chicago thing, um, all I can say about it is that, good luck going up against, JB Pritzker with
Yeah.
what Gavin Newsom is doing. JB. The main thing about JB Pritzker is that, much like Will's very own John Ossoff down in Georgia, he fears nothing. So
Right.
he's, even if I don't entirely trust him because he is, obviously is very rich, and I don't necessarily trust someone who amassed that much wealth. Um, you know, we need all the help we can get. So I'll be like, all right. I mean, I'll take what we can get.
Well, Pritzker money comes from a hotel chain. I believe it's the Hyatt hotel chain. So that
Ah,
money was probably amassed before he was even born. That's probably been a while. So he
that
maybe is not
yeah,
in the same
that's
mindset as
that's
a
fair.
Donald Trump. You said you went to Switzerland. I'm
I did.
curious, how were you received in Switzerland as an American?
Um, well,
Did they
mostly
question you?
they didn't really seem to care that much, honestly.
Really?
I feel like a lot of people are right in saying that they know it's not us, it's the leadership.
Right.
When I did have people asking where I came from, some people were able to work it out just on its face, and I didn't really get anything from them. But on the occasion where I felt like it might cause trouble if I did tell them where I was actually from, I just said, I'm Canadian," and that seemed to be enough. So
Yeah. And with what's been going on in this country, I take it that you haven't backed off of your plans to move to Canada.
no, I haven't. No. Speaking of Canada, by the way, just a quick sort of update for all those who weren't maybe following it as closely as I was. Obviously, Canada had their snap election several months ago, back in, I
Right.
think it was April.
Right.
The Liberal Party won. They are once again in power. They're in a minority government, so it's a little harder for them to pass legislation, but they are still in control. The Conservative Party is second up. After them is the Bloc Québécois, and the NDP, which was the sort of third largest party after that, got they got wiped out. They lost official party status. They're down to 7 seats from a total of 20 something. I can't remember the exact number. Um, but I think the most stunning part of that whole election was the fact that conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, aka Little PP, who has been the conservative leader since, I think, 23 or 24, and has also been the member of parliament for the riding of Carleton for like 20 years, since I was born.
Okay.
Lost his seat to a liberal, Bruce Fanjoy.
But he didn't want to leave, right? He was going to try to stay, a la
Oh no,
Donald
he
Trump.
he actually, a conservative MP in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot, gave up his seat, basically, so they could have a quote unquote by election. Basically, they gave up a they pulled a pussy move, and basically gave up a safe conservative seat so he could have his spot back. It was the most bitch ass, weakling move ever. And I think the Canadians realized that, because another unfortunate thing that happened recently is Steve Boots, who I got a lot of my Canadian political news from, unfortunately retired and went back to the classroom. So all his videos are now private. You can't view his content anymore. So that's unfortunate. But from the videos I saw before he went, it looks like the Conservative Party's kind of fallen apart. And that's not just metaphorical. The Conservative Party of Canada didn't used to be that way. It started out as two separate parties. The Reform Party, which is closer to what MAGA is, but maybe a little bit less unhinged, or not. It depends on your interpretation. And the Progressive Conservatives, which are a little bit closer to what the Democratic Party is here. And in 2003, they had what they called the Unite the Right convention, not the not the goose stepper, salute making Nazi march down in South Carolina. This is a different thing. This is a political party move. Anyway, they merged the progressive conservatives into with reform, and they formed the conservatives flat period, and so
You
that
haven't
that
heard
became
too
the CPC.
you haven't heard too much lately about Donald Trump's plan of making Canada the 51st state. Has Canada pretty much said fuck yourself and kick dirt?
Yeah, yeah, they have obviously. Mark Carney put out a lot about how the long-standing relationship between the United States and Canada is over, and honestly, I, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, do I think our relationship with the rest of the civilized world as a country is just over and ruined forever? No,
No,
because
I don't
nothing
either.
because nothing is, I hate to say it, but almost nothing is forever. There's very little that's actually forever. Do I think it's going to take a long time to build back the trust that we lost? Fuck yeah. It's going to take a long
Yeah.
time to build that back.
Well, this isn't Canada that we're going to talk about, but it's in a similar vein because of what Donald Trump talked about making Canada a 51st state. He wanted to buy Greenland, of course, and Denmark had a little trouble with that. But what happened recently is kind of interesting.
Oh, the
We're having
the spies, yeah.
right. He sent some spies in there to knock on doors and try to create some interest in having them come to the United States. And it seems like Donald Trump is kind of on an international incident tirade these days because not only did he do that, but he bombed that fucking fishing boat down by Venezuela. But
Oh, I saw
when
that. That
you,
was awful.
yeah, well, when you look at what he did in uh, in Greenland by sending those spies in, you don't hear a lot about it in the news. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, that is breaking international law, infringing on another sovereign country, and international law doesn't take kindly to that shit. I'm wondering if
No,
they're
I
going
know.
to proceed with these people that were there and whoever sent them there, which would have been Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, I would say, hit them for everything you got. Because if I'm being perfectly honest, a lot of times when I'm on this show, I take a really hardcore, you know, like punitive sort of justice
Yeah.
stance. Like, no, don't, no, don't play nice and be like, all right, now this is how you're going to apologize to this. And this is how you're going to make up for that. Fuck that. You beat the shit out of them until they associate being a bad person with getting the snot knocked out of them. And that's the only way that really bad people are going to learn. Otherwise, recidivism is off, is off the rails. They're just going to go right back to it because, you know, they're not going to learn. It's going to go in one ear and out the other.
And I've been saying this for about 4 years. This idea of taking the high road while they continue to break all the rules and laws just is not going to work. And it hasn't worked in those even 10 years. So now we see people like Gavin Newsom and some others that are standing up and pushing back and fighting back. And they're going, hey, the Democrats are going, hey, this kind of works. Yeah, we all knew that. We know how you deal with bullies. We've got the situation in Greenland, and as I was just talking about, this is an interesting situation too. Donald Trump sends a fighter jet, and the fighter jet shoots a missile into what looks like a fishing boat. Um, I believe it was in international water, but the intent was to stop drugs coming from Venezuela. Now, they never stopped the boat. They never inspected the boat. They just said that one's got drugs. Let's bomb them. And the fact of the matter is this has got to be looked at very negatively by the international folks. Donald Trump just willy nilly bombing some boat with 11 people on it, killing them. We don't know if they were drug runners or fucking fishermen.
Well, it's literally just state sponsored mass murder at that point.
Yeah,
You literally just murdered a bunch of people because you wanted to look tough.
right.
Look, Will said, I think it was either the last time he was on the podcast or the time before that, that, this guy's like, send me money to get into heaven. My man, not only are you going to hell, St. Peter is going to take a look at you when you're trying to walk up the pearly gates to get in those doors. He's going to take a look at you and at the list. He's going to laugh in your face for like 5 minutes straight and then punt you straight down at relativistic speed. And
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know, relativistic speed means dealing with speeds related to relativity, aka near light speed.
Okay.
So this guy's going to get his ass kicked to hell so fast he's going to think he's in a time warp.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree with you. You talk about him wanting to look tough. Have you heard what he did today to look tough?
Oh,
He
what?
moved he moved 10 stealth fighters to Puerto Rico to fight
Oh
drugs
God.
in the Caribbean. 10 stealth fighters. Where aren't they supposed to be certain places to keep this country fucking safe? Now they're in Puerto Rico for fuck's sake. And nobody knows why or what they're going to do. But if you're fighting drugs, do you really need stealth fucking fighters? Jesus Christ.
I mean, on one level, you kind of okay. One thing I want to make clear here: what I'm about to say is going to sound scary, but those of you out there who are going to flip out and go, "Oh no, it's the end of the world," this is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Stop it.
Yeah.
Zip it. Zip it. All right. Do not. Okay. There's a line from the game that I like to play. I've discussed it on Trucker T's lives and on yours as well. There's a line in the latest expansion for Destiny 2, The Edge of Fate, which is that the Nine can scheme all they like, but until we get evidence of their interference, let's not give them more power than they actually have.
Well,
And
that's
so
true.
let's apply the same logic here. This guy can bluster and shout and scream and bitch and moan and whine and whatever else he wants to do all he wants, but let's not give him more power than he's actually got.
And yeah, exactly. And for the older folks out there that maybe
Hold on, let
don't
me turn
get
the light
the
on.
game reference, um, basically what he's saying and what I've said all along is this: they're bullies. And as bullies, the only way they win is if you become afraid. And I meet a lot of people that said, I'm terrified, I'm scared, but you can't be. You can't lose hope because without hope, you might as well just give up. If you're afraid, you're letting them win. If there was ever a time to fight, now's the time to fight. Whether you think it's going to do anything or not, if you think it's going to be over and done, let's make it hurt on the way out if you really believe that. But I don't believe that. I believe that when things like this happen, they aren't sustainable. It's going to
No,
crash and
no, they're
burn. It
not.
always has in the past, and it will always now. We can see how bad it's going for Donald Trump. It's not going to last.
No, it isn't, especially with the way the Epstein things are going.
Yeah.
I I mean, and to anyone who is looking up to Marjorie Taylor Greene as some kind of scion of accountability for, promising to read the names of the Epstein client list on the House floor, fuck you. This woman is a raving anti-Semite. She's she's horribly anti-Semitic. She hates everyone and everything that doesn't look, think, or act like she does. A stopped clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you want to keep it around.
Well, yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene. The people tend to do this though. Liz Cheney goes against Donald Trump, and they think, "Oh, she's one of our friends." She was never one of our friends. She wouldn't vote
No,
like a
no.
Democrat. To make her a friend is crazy. And the same thing is with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and even Tom Massey. Tom Massey has said he'll read the names on the House floor too, which was an interesting bit of leverage. When we're trying to get
Him I would trust a little bit more because he's just a punk. He's not he's a punk and he's a coward, but at least he's better than, bleach blonde, bad built butch body over there.
right. But the thing is, people have to understand what's being said there and why they're being said, why it's being said. It's to put pressure, add leverage to getting those files released. You know, Donald Trump can come out and say, "We released everything, nothing to see here." That's what he's doing right now, and it's all bullshit. And even his own base knows that's bullshit. But it was a brilliant move for that survivor who said, look, if you guys don't release the names, we know all the names. We can compile a list. And then, of course, people came out and they said, well, if they release the list, they'll get sued into oblivion because of all the rich, powerful men that are involved in this. And to a certain extent, that could be true. I was talking to Will about it, and I said, yeah, that's a pretty high profile case. I bet there's any number of lawyers, high powered lawyers, that would take those on pro bono just for the publicity. But what made it more interesting was when Marjorie Taylor Greene said, yeah, I'll talk about it on the House floor. And I thought, okay, yeah, she's just bragging about it, trying to get some attention. And then Massey did. And then I realized why they said that.
They see the
Because
writing
there
on the
is,
wall.
well, they see the writing on the wall, but more importantly than that, there is a law that says you cannot sue anybody for any representative speaking on the House floor. They can say virtually anything and they cannot be sued for it. So they could technically read that list without any ramifications, at least legal ramifications. So it's a nice pressure move for the Republicans who are thinking twice about this whole thing. Uh, fuck, if I don't do it, I'm going to get burned, and then they're going to do it anyway. So what the fuck do I do now? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. We got to use that loophole for all it's worth right now. But I got to say that once we're back in charge, because we will be back in charge,
Yeah.
and I don't care what how much of a doomsayer that Mark Elias feels like right now, dude. Please tone it down, scale it back. You're making people lose hope. I said this on one of Trucker T's lives. You always want to make sure to give people hope in what you're saying, because if you just say, well, that's the end of everything, it's all over, civil war, world destruction, apocalypse, end of everything, somebody just now popping onto that live or whatever else you're doing might hear that, and they might be so at the end of their rope that that's the last thing they ever hear anyone say to them. I'm not going to spoon feed you the meaning of that. You got to figure it out yourself. But you do not want something like that on your conscience. So you always have to give at least some hope.
And people always give me shit. You're always giving us hope. You're always giving us hope. And it's not just because I'm strategically giving hope just in order to do what I need to do. When I give hope, it's what I believe. I believe there's always hope because if there's not hope, we might as well all get together, hug, hold each other's privates, and cry together. And that's just not me, you know?
Do you
So,
mean hold do you mean hold each other's hands in private, or hold
no, I said privates. Um,
That's wow, that's one
I
hell
just,
of an image.
well, I'm just trying to point out how silly it is. The whole thing is ridiculous not to not have hope. As I've told people before, I was born in 1960. I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've seen bad times in this country, and somehow we always come out the other side. So to think it's going to be any different this time around would be foolish. Younger folks that only know from like the 2000s, like you don't have a reference point to truly rough times. You saw 2008 and recession and all that stuff, but in terms
I was
of,
4, but
yeah, you were
still.
four. So you got to have that hope, and I think it's important to do that. Now, I will say this. Um, when Donald Trump became president, I honestly believe that there would be some guardrails that Republicans wouldn't go that far. They wouldn't let Donald Trump do these crazy things, and I was dead wrong about that. So I'm surprised. I'm dismayed by how far it's gotten. But even though it's gotten that far, I still don't feel any less hope over it. To be perfectly honest, when he was elected, I was talking to Old Soul, I was talking to Will, and I said to them, "Look, I know it's going to get bad. I'd almost prefer that it gets bad as quickly as possible so we can get beyond this and have more time to repair it." And damned if Donald Trump hasn't done that. Everything that can be fucked with or fucked up, he's done it in 8 months.
Yeah, I think I think it's a combination of, first of all, Eric's right. They really The Republican Party desperately wants to hold on to that base. They desperately want to hang on to that base.
Yeah.
And another
I don't know
thing is,
why.
well, another part of it, well, the, like Jason and others have said, before this guy came along, the Republican Party was done. They were finished. They were dead. They were
True.
they probably would have gone the way of the Whigs had, you know, had Jeb Bush been selected. Like they would probably be a non-entity at this point, and there would be something else coming to replace them.
If Jeb
But
Bush would have had a personality, he might have been able to take out Donald Trump. But Donald Trump was so loud and so big compared to all the Republicans, it was going to be impossible for him not to stand out. And when you've got a lot of dumb people in this country, and we found out at least 49% of the people in this country are fucking dumb, it isn't hard to sell dumb people on lies, clearly, because they're finding out now that they've been lied to, and I think they're a little concerned about it.
there's a difference between being dumb and being a Trumplefuck. Now, granted, they're not mutually exclusive,
No,
but something you got to understand. More people didn't vote than either side that voted for any candidate, even the third
right,
party ones.
right.
That that just tells you everything you need to know about, a big chunk of this country is just ignorant and, just out of the loop. So
Well,
that's
and
part of it.
I think it has a lot. I think a lot of the blame can be applied to the Democrats too. And here's why I say that. If you look at the 2020 election and the 2024 election, Donald Trump pretty much got the same amount of votes in both elections,
Oh
71
yeah.
million, 72 million. In the 2020 election, Joe Biden got 81 million. That was the highest vote count for any presidential candidate ever. Kamala Harris in 2024 got less than 71 million votes. So that's 9 or 10 million votes that are different than when Joe Biden ran. How do you explain that? I mean, was it Donald Trump fucking with numbers, or was it people just sitting on their ass at home trying to pout?
It was a combination of a lot of things. I do think there was some funny business involved because there always is with this guy. Let's not forget
True.
in addition to a bully, a bona fide Nazi, and a complete and total fucking monster, he's also a master blackmailer. He
Yeah,
digs
true.
up he digs up shit on people and holds it over their heads saying, "Give me what I want or I release this." And I think that's part of why the Republican Party has capitulated so much, is because he has shit on all of them and they don't want it to come out or they think they're going to get wrecked.
Well, and
Here's
I
the
think people think that's crazy. He's got blackmail. He's got shit on everybody. His whole career, he's done that. Jeffrey Epstein said
He's
he
never
was
been a
his
legitimate
mentor.
businessman. He's
Yeah.
literally just been a crime boss his whole life. He's not a businessman, he's a crime boss. He always has been.
Well, he has been, and he's been catered to because he had the power and the money. But Jeffrey Epstein said Donald Trump was his mentor, and Jeffrey Epstein made all of his money virtually by blackmail because there was no evidence of him doing any trading. He's supposed to be a financial guy.
Well, that, and we think the Mossad, because he was they're sort of the conspiracy theory making the rounds among the left, or at least, the auth left, because it's not the far left. We have to understand. What Will has to understand is the people that we have problems with on the left are not the far left, because there are people on the far left who did do their civic duty and did vote for Kamala Harris, and they still do, are like, well, we're not happy about this, but we'll go along with it anyway because it's the only chance we got.
Right.
What we need to deal with is the authoritarian left, the auth left. And
So,
that,
so
sorry, go
you're
on.
saying basically the Democratic version of the Trumplafucks, except
Yeah, blue MAGA.
more militant, more militant.
Yeah, blue MAGA, or Parkos permaculture also calls them blue anon. So
Wow.
a lot of these people are, either they are not properly emotionally regulated. They see things on social media in regards to, the war in Gaza, and they don't know how to process it, and they just want it to stop, and they don't know how. They don't like what they see, and they don't know how to handle it, so they just lash out and just scream at everybody because they just want it to stop. And to be fair, I can see the reason for that. That said, you have to be able to distinguish those people from the bad faith actually like auth left people who are. I want to get something clear here. A lot of people who are screaming and complaining about the war in Gaza and stop the genocide, stop the genocide, stop the genocide. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys, I hear you. I agree with you. Shut up and give us a second to put out the fire, and then we can get that handled. That said, though, a lot of people are acting this way just because they just see something bad happening somewhere and they just want it to stop. The problem is a lot of these people don't even know where Palestine is,
Right.
because I had somebody in my old filmmaking class who was a raving, bleeding heart latte liberal who really just wanted the war to stop. And so I was like, okay, if you're so passionate about this, tell me where this place even is, and tell us, what we're supposed to do to be able to solve this. She pointed at the Philippines. She
Yeah,
was not even close to where it was. And
that's
so
a
that,
little off.
yeah, that's what you got to understand about a lot of the people who are screaming and crying about this. They don't even know where the place is. To them, Palestine is a mythical place like Narnia, where bad things are happening and people are getting hurt. They don't get it. Now, that's the people who actually do care, and I appreciate it, but you gotta make sure you know who to direct your complaints at. But there's also a bad faith wing of this thing as well. There is also a chunk of people complaining about the war in the East who are communists who really, really, really have been waiting for the golden opportunity to shit all over the entire model of Western governance and American democracy, which they see as imperialist and fascist, because they want Soviet Union 2.0 basically. To them, this is their golden opportunity to say Western, democracy doesn't work. You know, this all sucks. We need another Soviet Union.
Yeah.
They
Well, that's
really,
certainly what
really, really
Vladimir
want
Putin
their
wants.
they really, really want their authoritarian communist utopia. They really want it, and they will move heaven and earth to get it.
Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? We keep hearing about Israel Hamas war or Ukraine Russia war, and Donald Trump was claiming that he could end the wars and win the Nobel Peace Prize and all of that shit. I don't think the war in Israel is going to end, nor do I think the war in Ukraine is going to end, because they both have leaders that have a lot to lose if there's peace in their countries. As long as there's some kind of war, they're safe, they can stay in their positions. Both are war criminals to a certain extent, if not convicted, certainly indicted for with international courts. They both don't have a lot of power anymore because they've been absolute failures in their country, and their country suffers for it. Donald Trump is trying to end wars, and I'm not even convinced he's trying to end the wars, but I don't think those wars end because those leaders don't want them to end. And then you have Donald Trump, who doesn't really give a shit. So, how do you come to any resolution on any of those wars?
I feel like the war in Ukraine is going to end more out of necessity than any action to, any deliberate action. Because let's face it, people, Russia's just running out of shit at this point. They're running out of
True.
everything: money, weapons, tanks, people. They're
Yep.
running out of it because, you know, Putin is an old Soviet whose only tactic is to just throw more of everything at the problem and deny that he's doing anything wrong. Because, let's face it, the man is a raving narcissist and has been for decades.
Well, and
If you
and
see
and the
photos of Vladimir Putin as a child, he looks evil, even as a toddler. He still looks evil. He has that Charles Manson, Ted Bundy look in his eyes. Just immediate, like you look at this kid, you immediately think future serial killer. Just absolute evil.
but Vladimir Putin only wants to end the war if he gets everything he wants. He gets pieces of Ukraine. He gets assurances that there'll be no European troops in Ukraine. That's the only way he is going to have a ceasefire. And to think that he might stick to any ceasefire is ridiculous. I mean, I've told this story before, and I don't know
I
if you
mean,
know
I
this. You
think there's
probably,
probably going to be, yeah, I think there's probably going to be some kind of proxy conflict or something. Like, there's probably going to be like an ongoing, I don't know, mess or insurgents or something like that. But the war proper, I think, is going to fall apart because they don't have the resources to continue it that way.
you know, the Republicans will always say, why are the Americans helping the Ukrainians? Because we signed a deal to do it, and so did Russia. I don't know if you know this story, but
No,
back
I
when the
do know it.
Soviet Union broke up, Ukraine became independent, and it just so happened that Ukraine had some nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So Russia and America went to Ukraine and said, "Listen, man, you got to give up those nuclear weapons, but don't worry, we'll protect you." Russia said, "I'll protect you." America said they would protect you. So they give up the weapons, and of course, Russia attacks them. Not surprising because Vladimir Putin, I think when this happened, it might have been Clinton or something, said we'd protect you. Nobody foresaw somebody like Donald Trump, and now we're not protecting them. The reason they're in this situation is because we can't stick to our agreements, and neither can Russia.
Well, I mean, to be fair, as you know, up until we elected the literal Antichrist, we were sticking to that deal.
We were, yeah.
I also wanted to make something clear about I described this man as the literal Antichrist. I don't even think it's not even like that. I want to make something clear about the people that still support, Velveeta Voldemort or whatever other name you want to use for him at this point. Previously on the show and on the lives, I've described the Trumplafucks as being their own evil species. But what I've come to decide is they don't even deserve the distinction of that. They don't even deserve that. The Trumplafucks are not even their own species. What they are is a cancerous tumor, a mass growing on the body of collective humanity as a whole. And the reason I say that is because think about it. They don't do their jobs properly. They don't act like regular people. That's number one. Number two, they multiply out of control and do everything they can to corrupt healthy humans to their side. And number three, they waste and use up resources and time, money, effort, whatever else you can think of that could be going to actual decent functional members of human society. What do we call? Gee, if only there was a term for those kinds of things in nature. Oh, wait, there is cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, while we're on that topic, we might as well talk about um, RFK Jr. Did you see his hearing? That was uh, that was impressive for RFK Jr. I don't know how he stood there and took that shit because he was made to look like a fool.
I had to hear it through secondhand sources because I cannot look at that thing or hear its voice without wanting to throw my phone at the wall. And I still
Yeah,
haven't broken, and I still haven't cracked my phone yet, so I don't want to break the streak now. Knock on
heck yeah,
wood.
yeah. But everything he's doing, one of the things Elizabeth Warren brought up, she said when you were being confirmed, you said you weren't an anti-vaxxer, and you said you wouldn't do anything to limit people getting the COVID vaccination. Well, now of course he is anti-vax. We knew that because he said it before. He just lied in front of Congress. And this limiting the COVID thing, I'm hearing blue states are saying, "Fuck what he said. If you're in this state, everybody's going to get the COVID thing." And
Yeah, West Coast Health Alliance. Yeah.
right. And I hope they do that here in Minnesota too. I mean, I can get the COVID thing because I'm 65, but my kids, the idea that he was going to be honest and do what this guy is just a buffoon. I mean, he's not just evil; he's very stupid. Did you hear the latest? Did you? You're the perfect. I don't know if you've heard this, but you're the perfect one to bring it up for because it's an answer you've been looking for all of your life. Did you remember that he said sometime this month he was going to with the come up with the reason there is autism? What causes autism in people? Did you hear this?
Okay. Let me.
They haven't
I
made
don't
the
have any.
official announcement
Go
yet,
ahead.
but it's leaked out. He knows what causes autism. Do you
Oh
have any
boy, I
idea?
can't. I can't wait to hear this.
It's not vaccinations. It's not being too woke. It, it's Tylenol. Tylenol is what made you autistic.
Oh, okay. I got to take a second to recover from that because I'm pretty sure, as you said that, my I feel like I burst a blood vessel in my brain as you just hearing that.
That's possible. Well, I
Like I
mean, it's
feel like
you
my
know,
brain is bleeding. Send help, please.
well, I'm telling I'm hearing that, and I'm telling my wife. I said, look, autism's been around for a while. Tylenol's been around for a while with that Tylenol poisoning thing back in the 80s. You know, the idea that a legitimate CDC and scientists and doctors haven't looked at all these possibilities, look at testing everything to see if it has to do with autism. I can't imagine that they didn't look into an over counter a fucking pain reliever already. But this is what he comes up with. I was thinking he was going to come up with some vaccination like the polio vaccination, but that's what's being said. He's claiming it's Tylenol, and that apparently is his way to redeem himself from this fucked up hearing that he went through.
Yeah. All I can say is RFK Jr. is going to be used as the devil's toothpick when he's gone.
Yeah,
He is going to be the devil's fucking toothpick. And even more so than that, because this man has always been an evil piece of shit. What do
yeah.
I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Well, when he was a child, he used to quote unquote prank. I don't want to call it a prank, as who fucking does pranks like this? After his father was assassinated, he used to hide and pretend he got assassinated to to scare his siblings. And they would run around screaming and crying, yelling, they got him like they got dad." And then he would pop out laughing like the little asshole shit he was.
You know what
This
else he
man
did?
is a piece of fucking cancer, and he always has been.
I was going to tell this story. I told my wife, I said, I don't even know if I should tell you this story because it'll fucking make you sad. But I heard somebody who went to college with him and maybe hung out at parties, and um, he was in a fraternity or something. This fucking animal, and this should have been a red flag that he should be locked up someplace. But he would take,
That's not enough.
uh,
That's too nice for him.
yeah, but apparently, and this is secondhand story, so I have a verification of it, but I get it. He would be in these parties and he would take these little chickens, you know, the baby chickens, and put them in a blender. For fuck's sake, this guy needs some help. He's a nutcase. And you can see it when he's sitting there talking. They call him out for lying and he'll say, I didn't say that, when there's all kinds of videos that show him saying that. This guy is mentally ill, and it's more than the worm in his brain. It's more than that. There's something fucking off about him.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Isn't that like the hallmark of a serial killer? Is that when they
Yeah.
started out in life, they tortured animals?
Yeah.
Like this guy is literally just a serial killer, just on like the public stage. Like he's literally just a serial killer in an unorthodox form. That's all he is.
Well, and in a sense, he has the opportunity to actually be a serial killer by taking away vaccinations, taking, you know, what's going on down in Florida where they're taking all mandates for vaccinations away, even polio. I mean, by giving people, taking these vaccinations or making, see, what people have to understand, they say, okay, we're going to take the COVID vaccination and limit it to only certain people that are sick or over 65. They're not saying you can't get the COVID vaccination. What they're saying is you can get the COVID vaccination, but as opposed to your insurance company paying for it, you have to pay for it. Now, if I have to pay $200 to get a COVID vaccination, I'm going to do that. But if I've got a young family, you know, in their 30s with 4 kids, and they're struggling to get by as it is, and you tell them we can get you all COVID vaccinations, but it's going to cost you 1,200, 1,400 bucks because insurance won't pay for it. These people aren't going to be in a position to be able to pay for it, and people are going to die. As it was, 1 million people died of COVID. You want to talk about serial killers? You got to put Donald Trump in that fucking mix because at least three-fourths of the people that died, it's been said that what Donald Trump did or didn't do caused those deaths. So Donald Trump, for all intents and purposes, is a serial killer.
Yeah. And the reason the whole anti-mask thing got started in the first place started for the dumbest reason imaginable. It all started because this guy, this sorry, I shouldn't call him a guy. He doesn't deserve that honor. This thing, this creature said that said I don't want to wear a mask cuz it'll fuck up my makeup. That's the only reason this whole anti-mask nonsense got started in the first place is this one man didn't want to fuck up his stupid bootleg orange face paint.
Well, and
That's
the
the only
ironic,
reason all these people don't want to wear masks is because that man didn't want to mess up his makeup.
well, and the
Fucking
ironic thing
monster.
is that for all these people that didn't like masks, now they send ICE out wearing masks, and it's not for safety; it's for not being exposed to who is actually committing these egregious crimes. None of it really makes sense because Donald Trump will say one thing and then he'll do another thing. And the only troubling thing is there are people that follow him that will stand by it, including Republican politicians. When I see somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a dumbass, make no mistake, she's a dumbass. If she can help out the cause, I'll use her for that, but I still won't have any respect or count on her. But in my mind, I thought that after the election, people would see how bad this was with him doing the things he's doing. And eventually they would step away from him because they don't want to be dragged down into the suck hole that he'll be dragged down into. And if they stay above ground, they don't want the stink wearing off on them. I thought these people would walk away from him before now, but they're still sticking with him. These Republicans in the House of Representatives, I don't care if you think you're MAGA or not, you're complicit with what MAGA is doing, so you're just as guilty.
Exactly. And by the way, to all the people out there in ICE and everyone who is going along with this guy who's capitulated to him, this guy this the Trump regime is going to be short-lived because the guy literally doesn't have he literally his life is going to be measured in months if not weeks at this point. He's dying. Let's just say it straight up because fuck TikTok and their snowflake guidelines.
Yeah.
The man is not long for this world. Swollen ankles, a catheter, bruising on his hands, the way he looks and the way he talks. The dementia is getting worse and the congestive heart failure is getting worse and everything else is getting worse because when you live on a diet of hate, evil and Big Macs, it's gonna do that to you. To everyone who thinks that you're gonna be a collaborator, that you're gonna cozy up to this guy because it's gonna benefit you. We will find you. When all this is over, we are gonna find you, and it's gonna be revenge time, baby, for all of you.
And the important thing to say about that is something that, Will's brought up, I brought up. When you say revenge, it's not like we're going to go find you and beat you up. The
It's
revenge
awfully
will
tempting,
come.
I gotta say.
Well, I'd be happy to do it if given the opportunity, but I think the revenge is going to come. And I've said this before that when everything falls apart, even more so than it is now, and all these bad things happen, if Donald Trump keels over, they're still going to be looking for people that are accountable. And there are people like Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, um, Hegseth, all the people around him. If you think that once Donald Trump is gone, you'll just be let to run free on the world, there's going to be accountability for the crimes that are committed, the corruption that's been created. And they're going to be coming after them. And as I've said before, if you think that's not true, just remember during Watergate, which was 1/10 of what we're dealing with now, while Richard Nixon got pardoned, there were a number of people in his administration, on his cabinet, that went to jail, including his Attorney General Mitchell. So if you think you're going to get away free from this and say, well, Donald Trump just told me to do it, that's not going to work. There's going to be accountability meted out. And if Donald Trump's not here, you're next in line. Just understand that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And by the way, we all know Stephen Miller hates the color brown. I hope he's ready to get used to that because he's going to be the devil's butt plug. And that was not a fun image to come up with. So I took one
No.
for the team on that, folks. You're welcome.
Well, I've said this on the show before. The one of the best memes I've seen um, is they were making a comparison. They had a picture of Stephen Miller standing there like this, and right next to it, they had a close up on a polyp in a colon, and surprisingly, they were very similar. Shape
Oh
of the
man,
head.
yeah. For reasons I can't share because of privacy, that you do not have any idea how relatable that is. But yeah, there's
Well,
nothing to do. It's nothing to do with me. It's a family member got a colonoscopy. That's all.
now you talked about when Donald Trump's expiration date coming up soon. When we were going through that whole time where people thought he was dead, people were thought he was infirm, thought he was in a coma, all that stuff. What were you thinking at that point? Did you think that was the end, or did you think he'd be like a cockroach and he'd somehow crawl out from under the refrigerator?
I thought that either it was the end or he would come crawling back looking more deteriorated, diminished, and demented than ever. And it ended up being the second one.
It ended up being the second one, but he is going on 80 years old. As you've said, he's not healthy physically or mentally. Um, Time is running,
Yeah,
and
the
time is
Grim
running
Reaper
out for
always
him.
gets his dues.
What do you think? Say he keels over, not in public. Walking down to um, the refrigerator in the White House or whatever. What happens if he keels over? What does his administration immediately do? Do they try to hide it? Do they try to buy for time, or do they come out and say he's gone?
Do you want the funny version or the serious version?
Both. We got time.
Well, to start with the funny version, it's going to be impossible to hide it because as soon as he keels over, so do however many million of his minions because they're all linked to his hive mind. And the instant the control computer goes, all the drones go with it. So you're going to have a bunch of people just slumping to the ground like the toys in Toy Story, just foaming at the mouth because their brains have stopped working. That's the
I
funny
like
version.
that. I like that version.
The the serious version is that they're going to try and weekend at Bernie's it, I think, for as long as they
Really.
possibly can, but they're not going to be able to do it. It's not going to work. They're going to try it, it ain't going to work.
Don't you think they're kind of already doing the weekend at Bernie's thing? And here's what I mean. Donald
That's
Trump
already,
shows
yeah,
he
that's fair.
shows up at this press conference and he's ambulatory, he's upright, and he is talking. He's making no sense and it's fucking ridiculous. But don't you think in order to let people know he's actually still alive, they pump him full of Adderall or something just to give him some burst of energy so he can go out in front and make it look like he's healthy?
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that definitely does feel like what they're doing now. That, in all honesty, it kind of just feels like the devil's keeping him alive, just to try and get one last shot at taking over or destroying the world before he croaks. To be honest, I mean, okay, people, I got a bit of homework for you in the audience. Look up and watch the movie Bad President. The entire premise of that movie is the devil making Donald Trump president so he can have a voice and tool of evil in the White House to spread hatred and evil and corruption throughout the world. That's the entire
And I
premise of the movie is Satan makes Donald Trump president so he can have his puppet in the White House.
I will add another thing that they should watch if you want to make a comparison with Trump and the devil and the relationship between Trump and the
South
devil.
Park. South
Just
Park,
watch
yeah.
South Park. They pretty much nailed it.
Oh,
That's got to be driving Donald Trump nuts because here's a show that's been popular for years and is probably more popular now because of this than ever before. And he doesn't like being embarrassed, and that's all they do for a half hour is embarrass the fuck out of him, make him look stupid.
yeah, and I mean, they don't even have to work very hard because he already looks stupid.
Yeah. You know, when he was at his press conference, this I thought was kind of telling. and I'm not sure how to read it yet, but I think I kind of understand it. When he was standing up there, Peter Ducey was trying to be clever
You
and
mean Peter
funny.
Douchey?
Peter Ducey, he was trying to be clever and funny, which is not his strong point. So he didn't come off being funny. So he says to Donald Trump, he says, "Where were you when you heard that you were dead?" Now, he expected Donald Trump to come back and make some joke and fake news that and hoax this and strike back at somebody, but he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He said, "Where were you when you heard that you were dead?" It was everywhere in the media, every fucking social media platform, in the media, mainstream media, and all he does is watch TV. So we know he saw it. But all he did was saying, uh, "Yeah, I didn't hear about that. I don't know anything about that." That was an odd response to that sort of thing. If somebody attacks him, he's going to attack back, but he didn't in that instance. That tells me that there may be something going on and it's fucking with his head a little bit, and he couldn't come up with a way to strike back.
I feel like, it kind of the way he was talking, it kind of sounded like the speech patterns of somebody who's heard some really, really awful news, like
Yeah.
you've got stage whatever cancer, you will not live another year, you got such and such months left to live, and he was still getting over it. No sympathy for the devil, as they say. The guy can go fuck a duck, but still. Um, I was giggling earlier because of a kind of inside joke. A common joke in my family is that when I was a little bit younger, we don't do this so much anymore because we both kind of mellowed out a little bit. But a common joke that my brother and I will sometimes make, I think it was my brother who started it, but I kind of ran with it because it was funny. Is when sort of casual accusations like who left the door open or this that the other thing. You know how kids always like it wasn't me and
Yeah.
all that. But we had a spin off that's like it wasn't me. I was dead at the time. And so I half imagined I was wondering if Donald Trump might say that like I didn't know, I didn't hear about that, I was dead at the time. Like I just half expected, just for the hell of it, he might say something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, assuming he dies, and I cross my fingers, hoping that's soon, because I believe that in this situation, you've got to take one problem at a time, and cutting the head off the snake is the first biggest thing to do. A lot of people keep coming to me, yeah, but JD Vance is worse. And I don't think that's the case because JD Vance doesn't have the wherewithal to lead a cult. In fact, most of those people don't even like him. I think the Republican Party will be in shock. I think JD Vance will be marginalized by his own people and the strength won't be there. I mean, it's one thing for Donald Trump to call a sitting member of the House saying, "You better vote my way or else." But if JD Vance does it, they're going to go, "Fuck you, couch boy."
No, I better hope that's not an invitation.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, exactly. First of all, I think it was Eric who said this. They don't see the guy. They don't see JD Couch Humper Vance as the future of the party. They
No.
don't. So it's all the people saying, "Oh, they'll just bow to Vance." Peter Thiel and Dark Enlightenment, Curtis Yarvin, yada yada yada. I said this before and I'll say it again. Stop it. Stop it. Again, giving the guy power he doesn't have. So let's walk it back and I'll explain why that is. Look, we know this. Maybe some people don't, but we know this. The guy has the personality of a wet eggplant. Let's
Yeah.
just be real. The guy just, looks and tastes horrible, presumably.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Why
No,
would
no,
you
no, no,
say
no,
that?
no. Yeah. I just realized what I just said. That
That that's
ugh.
uh that's sick.
Well, I mean the
That's
I
sick.
mean the the couch can probably tell us all about that.
Yeah, yeah, no shit. But yeah, I'm not worried
Ugh.
about JD Vance. And even if I was worried about JD Vance, he's not as big a problem as Donald Trump. We get rid of Donald Trump one way or another, and then we figure out how to deal with JD Vance. But the real problem, the real dumpster fire is Donald Trump. He is and the reason he's a problem for the Republican Party, he's easily manipulated. So they like him for that. Oh, go do this, Donnie. Go do this, Donnie. and that's fine. But Donnie Trump, if he gets a wild hair, he'll do anything, and then he's out of their control. And they don't like not having control. They do like having control. JD Vance would fit that mold much better.
Yeah, yeah, that exactly. Also, for all the people who are kind of wondering, like, why is Jay so uncouth and kind of like unpleasant? Like, aren't you supposed to be like high decorum? Like, aren't liberals supposed to be civilized and majestic and first of all, fuck you, I ain't a liberal. I consider myself a social democrat, as in social democracy or democratic socialism, not the Democratic Party. I got my own problems with them. But also, I am, Elon Musk, fucking Elon Musk. That man's going to burn in hell too. But
Yeah.
anyway, he brought up being how he was quote unquote dark MAGA. Well, if that's the case, I consider myself dark woke. And if you immediately get mad upon hearing that word, fuck you, you don't know what it means.
Yeah.
It just means aware. It means prepared to help people who can't help themselves. It just means your eyes have been opened. Well, the difference between me and regular, I guess woke people is my eyes are open and I'm pissed the fuck off. So I'm dark woke.
I talk about Donald Trump being stupid, and I noticed this news story that came across, and this is evidence of what I've said about him being stupid. Trump apparently was misled by video of the 2020 protest in Portland, Oregon. And because he watched that video from 2020, he's now suggesting, well, he says, I will say this. I watched it today. I didn't know that was continuing to go on, but in Portland, it's unbelievable what's going on. He then claimed incorrectly that he'd seen the video evidence of the destruction of the city. Um, and he says, somebody asked him, are you going into Trump or going into Portland, Trump? Well, I'm going to look at it now because I didn't know this was still going on. This has been going on for years, the president replied. And he explained how he had been misled into the entirely false belief that large scale protests from 2020 had continued. He says, we'll be able to stop that very easily, but that was not on my list, Portland. But when I watched television last night, this has been going on, Trump said. So he watched a video from 4 years ago after the 2020 election, and he now wants to send troops in there because he feels like that protest has been going on for 4 years. This is a profoundly stupid human being.
Stupid, evil, and insane, we have to remember. Also, maybe maybe we're wrong. Maybe that crazy protest from 4 years ago could still be going on. We do have a contact up in Portland. His name is Trevor. I can always call and ask
Yeah.
him. That could very well be the case. I need to give him a call. Wait a second. Hello, yes, Trevor? Yeah, is Portland burning to the ground? Protest still going on? How about that? Nope, you're a fucking idiot.
Well, and they do the same thing about Minneapolis. They always suggest that Minneapolis was burnt to the ground because of the George Floyd protest, and it was ugly and it was devastating, largely incited by white supremacists and Republicans. I'm not saying that there weren't other people involved in, but it was incited by those folks. But every time Donald Trump talks about Minneapolis, he sounds like it's a wasteland burnt to the ground. Now, if you've ever been to Minneapolis, uh, it's a very nice place. All the areas that were part of the riots are pretty much repaired, and everything is pretty normal. We have our problems with crime too, like everybody, but this is what he does. He tells everybody else in the country Portland's burning to the ground, Minneapolis is burning to the ground, and it's just a fucking lie.
You know what is a wasteland? It's not burning to the ground, but it is a wasteland. Every single fucking red state is a wasteland because people just don't care about your constituents who elected you to represent them. I'm looking at you, every MAGA fuck representative ever.
You do a lot of traveling, a lot of overseas traveling. I understand that, but you're
I
a
don't I
young
don't do
man,
that.
and
I don't do that much.
well, you more than I do. You just got back from
That's fair.
fucking Switzerland. Um, but would you ever go to Florida? Especially now the vaccine mandates are off and it's going to become a soup of disease and humanity. And who's going to want to go there if no one wants to be vaccinated?
I would sooner try to deep throat a hot curling iron than I would go to that absolute cesspit of a state.
See, now what you're doing there is you're saying, what fucked up thing could Mike say? I want to one up that. And you did. So now I got to
Yeah,
come up with something down the
you
road.
you caught me there. You got me there. Um, Also, by the way, this is kind of just my style. When people, like threaten me or piss me off, I always just react by going dark, as they say. Normally, I'm not this rude. Like for any normal person, I can, hey, what's up? How you doing? And have a lovely conversation with them. That said, though, I'm not afraid to be an asshole. An example of that: one of my classmates in my chemistry class is from New York originally, and before she moved here, so she's in like her 20s now. When she was 16, some creepy guy was on her in the New York subway, and this isn't dissing New York City. This is just something that happens in big cities sometimes on public transport. It just sort of magnetically attracts the weirdos. There,
Yeah.
there's got to be a name for some that like a scientific name for that effect somewhere, like the Leidenfrost effect or the Doppler effect, or some fancy ass term for this. But anyway, this creepy guy is on the train with her, um, and he's like trying to be like, so you've been in this, it's classic, like he's hitting on her basically.
Right.
She's blatantly 16 years old in like a not like a Catholic school girl uniform or anything, but she's wearing like high schooler clothes, right?
Right. Right.
And he pulls out this book. He shows it to her. He's like, guess who wrote this book? He opens up to the back page, shows it. It's got his picture on the back. And he basically is trying to like say like, I wrote this book. Look at how fancy I am. So you want to go get coffee sometime? And basically she said no, got off at the next stop and just ran the fuck out of there. That's how she handled it. My handling of the situation in that case would be: this guy hands me this book, says, sees on the back cover. I pick this book up. I go, this book's a piece of shit. And he never would have, it wouldn't have gone any further than that. It would have stopped right there. That would have been the end of it.
Well, you say you're not normally as rude as you are on in the videos and such, and I can imagine that the case. But for those people who listen, I want you to understand what you see here with me is what you get, whether it's on fucking camera or off camera. I tend to be blunt and I tend to be a little rude when somebody's being rude to me. Let me tell you a quick story. Has nothing to do with politics, but I live in a condo. Electric company here sends me a bill every month. Okay. I'm going to tell this quick. Sends me a bill every month. And they said, hey, you know what? If you have appliances, and of course I have appliances, if you contract with this second or this third party, you pay them a certain amount a month. And if you have a problem with your appliances, you come out and fix it, right? Okay.
Hmm.
Now I did that before when I had my house. And so I had some experience with it. I said, yeah, I'll pay you 15, $20 a month in case I have a problem with my appliances. And, uh, and so 3, 4 years, 5 years, I haven't really had a problem with the appliances, but then I did with my refrigerator. Okay. So I call them up. I say, come on out. We got to fix my refrigerator. So it goes a day or 2 or 3 days and I still haven't seen them. And then all of a sudden my refrigerator starts working again. And I'm not sure why. I know it's going to go eventually, but I don't really care. They're not responding to me. They're not doing anything. And I'm a little pissed off, but my refrigerator's right. I don't really want to get in an argument about this. So my refrigerator, as you might expect, went bad again yesterday. Okay.
You
And
just to be
so I
clear, you
call,
you caught it, right? You caught it,
caught what? Yeah,
really? You don't.
yeah, just like I've told you before, I'll do the jokes. Anyway,
Ha!
but
Eh.
so anyway, it's not working properly right now. So I call the same place. I said, "Look, you didn't even come out last time. Now it's not working again. I need you to come out." I say, "Okay, we'll call you back in 24 to 48 hours." 24 hours later, today, as we're recording this, they call me back. And this is what the woman says to me. We've been trying to get somebody to come out because they contract with local people, trying to get somebody to come out, but we don't have anybody that's available to come out. And I said, yeah, well, you're going to have to find somebody. He said, well, here's the deal. If you want to find somebody and pay them to do it, we'll reimburse you. And I said to her, I said, look, man, I contracted with you to fix my appliances. Now you're telling me you can't fix my appliances. Why should I trust that you're going to reimburse me? And she said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I said, I got a better idea. I've contracted with you for 5 years for $20 a month. Why don't you reimburse me everything I've paid you because you haven't been able to come up with your side of the contract? Well, I can't do that. I said, I'm not surprised. You're a customer service person. And I said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to call a repair guy and they're going to tell me it's going to cost me about $500 when it's all said and done, if I'm lucky, to fix it. Or I can just go spend $1,000 and get a new fucking refrigerator, which is probably what I will do. We were out looking at refrigerators today. So I'll get a new refrigerator, not have to deal with it. My problem with this whole situation is that fortunately I'm in a position it won't kill me if I have to go buy a refrigerator. But when I was young and I had young kids, money was tight. If someone said to me, today you got to buy a new refrigerator because the people you contracted with aren't doing what they said they were going to do, I'd be lost. I wouldn't have the money, I wouldn't have a refrigerator, and I wouldn't have the people I contracted to do this to do what they promised to do. So it just pissed me off. So what do? I go look at refrigerators. We're probably going to buy a refrigerator in the next couple of days because it's still working. It's just not working right. And it's older refrigerator. I'm going to do that. But just to add insult to injury to this, I said, look, I'm not going to get any money out of them. I'm not going to get my money back, but I'm going to cost them money. And the way I did that, I found out that this company, HomeServe is all over the media with their advertisement. They're also on TikTok. So I did a little video about my experience with HomeServe, and I said, "Look, I'm not trying to tell you."
Ah,
And it just so happens I have 472,000 followers, so I think I got about 10,000 views on it already, and I tagged them in the video, and I put it on YouTube. So my point is if you fuck with me or my family, I'm going to do something. It may be unorthodox. It may not get me my money, but if it causes you a little pain, I'm going to fucking do it. And so we're going to see what happens and how they enjoy the thousands and thousands of views of people. You know what's fucked up about it though? I'm looking at the comments in that video. Every comment in that video, and there's hundreds of comments in that video, have talked about fucked up experiences they've had with that company and every other company that offers that service. So what I tell you, the whole idea of getting some kind of insurance on your appliances, it's a fucking scam. Don't do it.
yeah, no, exactly. Um, I've heard so many stories about people trying to force warranties on you because they get a bonus if you buy it or some dumb thing. Um, the comedian John Panette, who if you haven't found his stuff, you should.
He
Talked
died,
about it.
right?
Yeah, he passed away, unfortunately, about 11 years ago now, and he had an act about how he went into to go shopping for a new toaster, and he went and he got the toaster. He walked out. He's like, "All right, I'm buying this toaster, whatever. Would you like to buy the warranty?" He said, "No, I think I'm good." And it was he uses the toaster for both the warranty thing and and the um the coupons because shopping coupons don't shopping coupons are nonsense.
Well,
He
not
got
always, but generally,
Yeah.
yeah.
Point being is he's like, I I want this, I want this toaster. I will pay you this money. You give me this toaster, you know, that's the end of it. She's like, "Well, we really want you in our system." Is But I'm not adopting the toaster. What is this, like a foster toaster program? Look, once I get this toaster and walk out of here, you're never gonna see it again. And and that was the point of the whole thing. Is his end of the whole set was, remember when you could buy shit and walk out the door? Is remember when you could just walk in, buy your shit, and just walk out the door, and they didn't force all this nonsense on you?
Well, I years, 35, 40 years ago, I managed a retail electronics store, which was a shitty job. Um, and they would want you to sell the insurance or the warranty for your video cameras or TVs and all that sort of stuff. And the reason they want you to do it is because it's free and clear money when you take the deal. Two things happen. They make all the money that they get in this warranty. They already have to have a place to fix things anyway, so they don't have to add anything to it other than fix things on the rare occasion that people actually follow through with their warranty. Plus, the seller gets a bigger what they call a spiff. You get your commission off whatever item you sell. You make more money off selling that in that extra warranty. It's all a big scam and generally not necessary. I will buy warranties for cars now and then because I don't want to fuck with it, but even then I'm very careful about it. It's too bad that we can't have a warranty for some of our politicians because there'd be a lot of fucking claims right about now.
Yeah, a lot of those things, a lot of those things are probably so expired. You open up the pamphlet and it's just dust in there. Um,
Yeah.
I also want to make something clear about just myself personally, so that people understand it. Why do I have the empathetic views and the positions that I do? How can, so people might be wondering, how can JB be, be so, foul mouthed and, uncouth and such, and yet claim to be so nice, whatever else? Let me give you a bit of explanation about that. When I was in high school, I was in a math class, all right? And I wasn't necessarily struggling, but I wasn't doing as well as I thought I should be.
Hmm.
And so I had a really hard time of it. I went to my math teacher and like, listen, I don't think I'm doing very well. Are there any tips you can offer me? Is there any advice you can give me? And he said, you're doing fine. You're way ahead of the curve. And he showed me. And so my score was at like an 80, 80 something score in the math class. You know, not the best, but definitely, it's still pretty good.
In the B
The
range.
um, high B's, low A's. My well, maybe not that high, but point being, it was not nearly as high as I wanted it to be. The average was like a 60, 70.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, don't be so fucking hard on yourself. I mean,
No, well, the point was, it wasn't even just that. I mean, did it cheer me up? Yeah, yeah, for all intents and purposes, yeah. But I also just felt sad that, you know, as they say, it's lonely at the top. I felt sad that I was like, that's the average. You know, I felt disappointed that everyone else wasn't able to be at the same level that I was, and I thought, this isn't fair. People should be able to be on the same level that I am, because this is just you should know this. You should be able to understand this.
yeah, yeah, I think that people have come to my page, Trumplefucks and stuff, and they'll say, "You think you're smarter than everybody." And the fact is, I know I'm not smarter than everybody, but I know I'm smarter than 49% of this fucking country. I have to be. And so does everybody in the audience here. They're all smarter than the 49% that had the audacity to vote for Donald Trump.
I mean, if um, a fucking ant is smarter than those people. Like I said before, they literally just behave like cancer cells or something that shouldn't be alive but somehow is. Like, they're not, no conscious higher thought at all. They just repeat whatever their queen tells them to, because it's like an insect hive, like a queen and her drones. Like, they're all
Right.
just linked to her, and they just say whatever she says because their minds are fused to her own. That's why part of me thinks that, when old Donny Boy goes the way of the dodo, it's going to be like after Anakin Skywalker blew up the droid control ship in the Phantom Menace. You remember that scene, people? When
Kind of.
when the
I'm
when the
not. I'm
ship
not a
got
nerd, so I don't remember it as clearly as you do, probably.
well, how it went, just to if see if I can briefly summarize in the film, is that an army of battle droids was marching on the city of Otogunga on Naboo. It was it looked like all was lost. Army of battle droids in a fight. The natives are losing the fight against against the robots, against the invaders. Gee, I wonder where we've seen that before. But the point is that everything was going the bad guys' way right up until Anakin Skywalker, little kid at this point, in a starfighter. He's not supposed to be there. They just told him to hide in the ship, and then, being a little kid, he started it up, and then because he's an ace pilot, I guess he flew out, and he eventually managed to blow up the control ship by flying inside it, proton torpedoing the reactor core. Massive explosion ensues. But the point was, once he blew up the control ship, the central command computer that was controlling all the battle droids went with it, and when that happened, they all went,
Yeah.
and they all
You
shut
know,
down.
when you referenced the city of Otagunga, I knew I had no clue what you were fucking talking about. I've seen
It's
the
the
movies. I don't remember that shit.
it was the city that Jar Jar Binks belonged to. Who, by the way, even though I am a fan of Star Wars, I still hate that guy just because he's the worst example of a comic relief character. He's honestly pretty racist, and I just, it was a big flop to even create that guy.
Yeah, there was a lot of kickback about him. People did not like that motherfucker, Jar Jar Binks. He's just a
No,
big goofy guy. What did he ever do to hurt anybody?
I can I can understand why they went with the choice they did, because they were trying to, at a certain level, they're trying to market this to younger people, because Star Wars is kind of there's parts of it that are for, older and younger audiences. They want to sell toys, they want to bend this, they want to do that, whatever. But man, they executed it so just absolutely poorly, and it
Wow.
was it was just it was unbelievable.
We need to get you and Will on a show sometime, and you guys can nerd out about movies. Uh, that would be a weird one. That would be a weird one. You're in the same mindset as I am that this is unsustainable. What's going on with Trump and the Republicans, and that the end isn't that far off because they are literally spiraling in the toilet. Um, what do you see going on for the next month or so? How do you think this is all going to go?
I feel like Velveeta Voldemort's sphere of influence and the things he does becomes smaller and smaller and smaller over time, just as he becomes less aware of who he is and where he is from day to day.
Yeah.
There may even get to the point where he doesn't even know who he is anymore, where his memory is deteriorated to the point that, all right, if anyone's ever heard of Clive Barker, he's a probably the worst case of amnesia in the world. He has both retrograde amnesia and anterograde amnesia, which means he doesn't remember any of his old memories, but he also can't form new ones.
Wow.
So he has no sense of the past, of the future. There's just the present.
Right.
So he just forgets literally just everything. The only person whom he ever recognizes is his wife, Deborah. And whenever she walks in the room, he always greets her like she's been gone for years and years. Scientists have no idea why this is, why he remembers nothing basically but his wife.
Wow. I always make that inappropriate joke when my wife and I talk about getting older. And I
I
said,
don't see that happening. I don't see that happening to you, by the way. This guy got hit in the head in a very specific way, and I just don't see that happening.
well, I said to my wife, I said, getting dementia or Alzheimer's is a terrible thing. My grandmother had it. It's a tragic thing. It's a sad thing. And I said, but I'm a guy that looks at the glass half full. And I said, on the upside, if I get dementia, I get to wake up every morning, look at you, and think to myself, yeah, another one night stand. You got to look at the
Good
positive
God,
shit.
good God Almighty. That
She doesn't appreciate it either. She doesn't appreciate that point of view.
No, I think it's funny. I won't lie. I think it's funny, but yeah, it's definitely there's not a lot of decorum there. But hey, what has decorum ever done for anyone anyway?
Well, exactly. And you're worried about appearing rude or blunt or all that stuff. Sitting next to me, you look fine because I
I
tend
know,
to not pay attention to decorum either.
I know. I'm trying to make it clear because I usually have I don't know if you would call it decorum, but I'm usually like a lot more reserved, or not, maybe not reserved is the right term either, but maybe a little bit more, I don't know, civilized than I am on
Yeah.
the podcast. I don't curse, I don't swear, I don't go around insulting people because I know that the people I care about don't care for that sort of thing. They're more sort of they have, what I would call decorum. They believe in kind of holding your head high. Maybe not that, but at least if you can't see anything nice, don't say anything at all. That's what my family are like. Except my mom's mom, my grandma, the one I've mentioned on Trucker T's lives, and on yours once as well.
Yeah.
And I think my dad's dad, my other grandpa, he doesn't. He's, by the way, very much in the line of thinking that I am, in that you know that the Trump fucks are just white supremacist pieces of shit who just they couldn't deal with the fact that they're not top dog anymore.
You know, it's ironic. You say all the things that you don't do normally when you're not on the show or not on TikTok, and your decorum is much different. I'm just the opposite. I see doing all those things as part of my charm. And again, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. Hey, I want to give you an opportunity to do something you no doubt want to do,
Go ahead.
based on my experience in the lives when you've been there. If you want to just say "fuck British John," go ahead, because he messes with you.
I'm not going to do that, mainly because even though he does mess with me, it's still funny and
Well,
I
it
can
is
take a
funny.
joke.
It is funny, but he's he's riding that joke for a long fucking haul.
I mean, I can't say anything because I always rip Eric for, not wearing pants whenever he's on. Which,
Yeah,
by the way,
and
I didn't start that. TJ did, but I thought it was funny and just ran with it.
no, TJ didn't start it. I started it, and I regret it to
Oh,
this
did you?
day.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Bre- Breaking news: Rational Boomer has admitted to starting a joke about Eric's pants.
I did. I did. It's just a throwaway joke. Just some stupid old joke that like I tend to do, and then TJ ran with it, and then you ran with it, and I'm going, oh fuck, what did I start here? It's like that
I
old
mean,
Bee
Eric seemed to
Gees
find it
song
funny.
that says BJ's a song that said I started a joke. That was me, but I'm embarrassed about it now.
Makes sense. Honestly, I wouldn't have gone on with it if it didn't feel like Eric found it funny, which kind of seems like he did. So,
Yeah. Well, I try to explain to people in the lives and the people I know, the TJs, C Temptation, and all these people, and you, because I give you shit too.
oh,
Uh,
oh, don't you ever?
but everybody talks about what's your love language, and for me and my family, it's giving each other shit. I spent the evening with my 5-year-old granddaughter, and I explained to her about sarcasm one time when she got her feelings hurt by something I said, and she's just constantly giving me shit. You know, if I go back to my bedroom right now when she stayed over, she puts a sign on the door because she goes back with grandma and they watch movies. Uh, there's a sign on the door that she wrote that said, "No boys allowed." You too, Grandpa. so, so when they're back there watching, I buy her suckers, I buy her all kinds of shit, but she will give me shit. But you have to understand, if I'm giving you shit, it's because I see you as part of the family, as it were, the internet family.
Yeah, no, I can
So
definitely see
fuck
that.
you.
But duly noted. Um, yeah, no, me and my brother did that as well. We put, a no whatever allowed on our door as well. But because we did not necessarily have the same upbringing as maybe a lot of other people our age, we did not think to do, no girls allowed because, for one thing, we barely knew any girls. And I mean, we had some in our friend group, but that was about it. And, they were our friends still.
Yeah.
we put signs on our door because we had a shared room when we were younger. It's like, don't anybody fucking come in here. That's nobody. That and we didn't even name any names. It's just like, if you're not us, you're not allowed in here. Like that was it. Now, of course, a sign on the door is going to do, fuck all to stop the parent of a young child, but still.
I was talking to my daughter-in-law, and she just had a baby. We have a 3-month-old grandson. Cool as
I saw.
hell.
I knew about that. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And and she's never been a mother before. She doesn't know much about babies. And I said, here's what you have to know about boys. If they're like my sons, like who you're married to, you're going to get peed on when you're changing a diaper eventually. They are going to blow out diapers to the point that is fucking crazy. I said, I would go pick up my kid in the morning and he would have shit from his neck to his knees. How he did that, I don't know. And she said, well, I doubt he'll do that. And talking to her the other day, and she said, uh, yeah, it happened. He peed on me. He's blowing out diapers like nobody's business. And I said, okay, I've got one more bit of advice for you, and you won't have to deal with it for a while, but heed this advice. She said, what is it? I said, when he becomes 12 or 13 and anytime thereafter, never, ever walk in his room because you
Yeah, no,
don't know
you don't
what you're
want to
going to
do
run
that.
into.
You don't want to do
You don't
that.
you don't know what you're going to run into. It's going to smell horribly. There's going to be food under the bed. It is going to be a horrible experience, and you're just not ready for that shit.
I'm pretty sure if somebody was not from our household had walked into my room while I was 12, 13 years old, they would have just straight up, you know, caught bubonic plague just out of not bubonic plague, pneumonic plague or
It wouldn't have been good. It
no, it wouldn't
never
have been
is
good.
good. Yeah, you don't want to walk into a teenage boy's bedroom. Well, Jay, I'm going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a while since you've been on. You reached out earlier today, and I said, "Fuck it, come on today." Ed was supposed to be on, but things got messed up, so this is a perfect opportunity, and I'm glad you did. I know that
Yeah.
people were anxious to hear from you.
I still want to try and do a show with Trucker T or Jace, as I said before, because I feel like if Jace is there or Trucker's there, it balances me out because sometimes I get a little long winded, I get like carried away and I ramble. And I feel like if somebody else is there to like, sort of act as a counterweight, it's like what I do for Trevor. He's a counterweight for me just as much as I'm a counterweight for him, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, no, that's no problem. We can do that. In fact, I enjoy doing that. As I've said before, if I have a guest on, I only have to do half the work. If I have two guests on, I only have to do a third of the work. And being a confirmed lazy bastard, I'm all for it. We had Eric and Old
it's
Soul
fair.
on. And don't worry about going on too long and talking too much because we have other guests that show you up every day, and I'm happy for them to be able to talk. I mean, it's horrible when you have somebody on and they don't have anything to say. We're fortunate with the people that come on the show. They all have plenty to say, and it's all worth listening to. So I'm happy to have that. You're not talking too much yet. In fact, you could pick it up a little bit more because I probably worked a little harder than I wanted to. You got to pull your 50%, no question. You've done that today, but if you want to pull a 60%, I'm for that too because I'm lazy. So talk more if you
Make
like.
makes sense. Um, yeah. Anyway, thanks for having me as always. It's been an awesome thing. I did want to close out though with one final message to all the Trumplefucks out there.
Please.
Listen to me. Okay, you want me to treat you like a person? You better fucking act like one. Because the way you're behaving right now, you're behaving like cancer cells. You don't do the job you're supposed to do as a human being. You don't even have basic human decency, humanity, empathy. You're scoring all the areas of basic humanity as a fucking zero.
Yeah.
So you're not doing your job as a basic human being. You're multiplying out of control and constantly trying to corrupt regular people into whatever it is that you are. I'm still having difficulty even placing it. And you're using up vital resources, time, effort, everything else that could be going to people who actually do care about their fellow man. So
Yeah,
to me, I will regard you all as a cancer upon the human race. And as someone who has lost a beloved family pet, a relative, and is in the process of losing another to cancer, I can confidently say, fuck every single one of you.
absolutely. And I will, I don't, I will just say, as far as I'm concerned with Trumplefux, you're irredeemable. The damage you've done is
Oh no.
too much. I can't trust you. I will never trust you. I will never like you. And I will never welcome you in. I'm sorry if that
You could
seems harsh, but that's the
I
only way I
mean,
can do it.
is it really that harsh if it's true? I mean, you could sing,
Well,
you
yeah.
know, you could sing that, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch song about these people, and every fucking word of it would be true.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jay, thank you very much. Don't stay away so long. Come back anytime. You have my phone number now, so just text me like everybody else does and say,
Oh yeah,
"Can I come on? Well, you got time?" Yeah, I always have time. I'm on every fucking day, so I'm always looking for ways to put together a show. So
makes sense.
anytime you'd like to do that.
I got
For those of you, go ahead.
I got I got some shit to do this weekend, so I'm gonna be a little bit tied up. But I think definitely next week I'll be back in the fold. I'll be
Perfect.
available.
Perfect. For those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.